They love me not. Justin Fields, will he stay or will he go? I think he goes, and I think the place that he should go is back home. There's no place like home. Go to Atlanta Falcons where he can, match up with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. I think it'll be one of the most dynamic duels that we have, a young core with a dynamic quarterback. I think they can maybe bring some back those days they had with Michael Vick when you talk about one of the greatest shows to watch with the explosiveness of what that offense could look like. What a great present for Raheem Morris. Welcome back.
All right, so Mike T, he thinks obviously the Falcons is the best fit. What do you think best fit for Justin Fields?
That's not bad, but I really like Pittsburgh, guys. If you look at their new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, and all the success he had as an offensive coordinator in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill, a big, strong, athletic quarterback, I think Justin Fields, that really comps very, very well. And you look at those skill players that Pittsburgh has around what Justin Fields would have, it'd be much better than whatever he had in Chicago. So if I'm Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, with that defense, you have a brand new offensive coordinator, gosh, you get Justin Fields, that changes Pittsburgh immediately.
What do you think, Ross?
I'm with Mike. I like him in Pittsburgh. I think Arthur Smith is creative and would build around the running game, the strong running game they already have. Fields as a running quarterback would augment that, and then you have receivers that can be reliable and are explosive. I think that would be the place for Justin Fields. It's a stable organization, which is something he needs at this point in his career, so we can find out exactly what he has going forward as a starter. And I like Atlanta too, but I think Fields. I think it's Arthur Smith's new team. I would give the edge over Arthur Smith's former team.
But here's why Atlanta, in my opinion, one, he would be going to a weak division.
Yep.
Two, he'll be going home where he can feel comfortable and deal with the pressures of having to be the guy. It kind of reminds me of shades of, a lot of people, don't remember that Brett Favre didn't get drafted by Green Bay Packers.
Atlanta.
And a lot of people don't remember that Steve Young didn't start with the San Francisco 49ers. This is a place where, both things can be true, right? He can be moving on from Chicago, but it doesn't really mean that he's a bust.
Right.
This means that, hey, it just didn't work out the time, he didn't fit. I think he can still be on that Hall of Fame trajectory if he's put in the right place. And I think, Raheem Morris is going to be stable for at least 3 years. This is a team with $29 million of salary cap space. So you talk about what they have, but you talk about what's out there. Whatever you need, you'll be able to go get, right? You need defensive linemen that's available. You need interior linemen, but you already have a solid offensive line. They'll be playing. I don't know if I want to sign this young quarterback up to play against the Ravens twice. Yeah. They're going to have to go head-to-head with Joe Burrow twice. Mm-hmm. Have to deal with, Deshaun Watson if he can figure it out twice. By the time he goes to play people outside the division, I think it's a softer landing for him if you go to a weaker division. A team that's young and exciting, you put him and Bijan Robinson in some type of RPO read option, the ability outside, and maybe, just maybe, you talk about Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith couldn't find a way to use Kyle Pitts after they spent that high draft pick. He was like non-existent in that offense.
It's because he had a quarterback kept throwing it to the other team, right? Like if you can get Fields, Fields obviously would be an upgrade over what Arthur Smith was working with at quarterback in Atlanta the last couple of years. So I think that would be the difference. And we have seen Arthur, as an offensive coordinator, have success with, I think, lesser personnel than what Pittsburgh.
Mariota, yep.
Right. So and even like what when Tannehill started playing well, A.J. Brown and what else? So and Derrick Henry. But yeah, I think those are two good spots for him. I would say I would give the edge.
And sometimes the change of scenery is good for a player. It did for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Look, all of a sudden Baker Mayfield comes to Tampa Bay. We think totally different about him. But is the jury still out, you think, on Fields as a starter, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly from a frontline starter. Look, he's still young. He's 25 years old, 60% completion percentage. The biggest question about Justin Fields, guys, 135 sacks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of sacks. Now, in fairness to Justin Fields, that offensive line was awful. Now, last year was better with Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright. Early in their career, it wasn't. But if we were sitting there in Atlanta or Pittsburgh, that would be the big question. As Graz, again, just said, when you look at what Arthur Smith did in Tennessee, it really built an offense that made Ryan Tannehill play to his strong suit, move the pocket, and that's what Justin Fields is going to need. And I think he goes to any of those two teams. I think he's top 12, maybe top 14. I don't know if he's top 8, but there's a lot to work with there.
But I get to you really quickly. Fair trade compensation then for Justin Fields?
I think calling around, it seems like a second rounder is about the best they're going to do. I mean, if they can get multiple teams interested, maybe you can get a little bit more. But I think if they can get a 2 for him, then that would probably work, or a package built around that, depending on where in the second round the pick would land. But I do think it's important to Bart's point, like, I don't think the Bears will be dumping Justin Fields for the sake of dumping him. If they didn't have the 1 pick,
right.
I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Yeah, they can't do that 2 years in a row.
Right.
Pass on C.J. Stroud. We've seen what C.J. Stroud, is.
But what I'm saying is, like, Fields, I don't think that the Bears think Fields is useless.
Right.
I think they feel like, if they have the 1 pick and they can upgrade and restart the clock. Right.
And they've already started to clear salary space. They cleared $21 million, so they're going big game hunting, and you only do big game hunting when you have a cheap quarterback.
Mike T, if I said Dak will be the highest paid quarterback this offseason, is that fact or fiction?
It better be fiction. He should not be over $50 million a year. You look at that sort of real estate of Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Stay below there, Dak. You want to keep CeeDee Lamb. You want to keep Micah Parsons. You want to be able to spread the wealth. So that should definitely be fiction from a Cowboy perspective.
Since we're talking Cowboys, did you guys hear what Emmitt Smith said there at the Super Bowl? Take a look at this. He said, quote, talking about his former team, nobody wants to fight no more. Nobody wants to fight hard anymore. They want to say, oh, we're the Cowboys. Tell me how good I am. Check out my Instagram posts. See me on my podcast. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm everything without doing anything. And everybody's patting them on the back. People want to give them so much without doing nothing. And what they're living off of is what happened in the past, not what's going on and going down right now. Sounds like that's a little subtle shot there, Michael Parsons.
Keeping it Rizzo, man.
Okay, Bart.
Real subtle.
Yeah, you're right about that. He basically said it without mentioning his name.
These OGs are getting fed up, right? Like, to quote the great Willie Beeman, Steaming Willie Beeman, don't let my success go to your head. And that's what's going to these younger players. They're riding off the success of the 90s Dallas Cowboys, that dynasty that they had, right? And they haven't proven anything, right? And they're riding and to wear the stars is a very special thing. We talk about, one of the most successful brands there is in all of sports. And, they get everything, accolades, everything is multiplied when you do something in the Dallas Cowboys uniform, but they haven't delivered. Not only have they not delivered, they have underwhelmed. They have fallen short time after time after time. It is just not unique to this iteration of this team. It goes all the way back to the Tony Romo days. They always fall up short, and to me, if it's not the players, because the players are different, it's the culture and the environment in which they live in, and they're too comfortable over there, and somebody needs to make them uncomfortable. I don't think the Cowboys and that building has been uncomfortable since Bill Parcells was in there. And they came up short.
And I was going to say, is it a leadership problem? Is it a culture problem?
It's a culture problem. They get to go to the cushy, like, let's go to California for camp. Man, they need to be out there like the Junction Boys, right? They need to be out there in that Dallas heat dealing with.
Wichita Falls, where we used to be out there.
Yeah, they need to toughen up, man. It's too cushy over there. They're in the suburbs. You got to do like Apollo Creed did to Rocky and take them to the hood.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, Brian, when you listen to Emmitt, it's the whole notion of when you're a champion, you walk into a room for the rest of your life as a Dallas Cowboy champion. You look at Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, they've made a career off of that, which they totally deserve. And I think what the essence of what Emmitt Smith is trying to say is, like, be a champion first and then all the spoils. Like, you go around New York City, Derek Jeter, Eli Manning, Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin, Lawrence Taylor, they're champions forever. It changes the narrative. And I think what he's just saying is, like, let's earn it first before we start going out to Bart's point about the brand versus the actual accomplishment.
What do you think, Oz?
You've been to the Star in Frisco?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to get comfortable there.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to their training camp out there in Southern California. It's pretty sweet.
Oxnard.
Yeah. Look, I think as disappointing as it is for college-age me to listen to Emmitt Smith entering his grumpy old man phase, I do think that there's something to be said for a lack of, like, I don't know who the leaders are in that locker room, right? Like, who is the accountability guy? Who are the people that are gonna hold your feet to the fire when you're not doing your job? I think they have good players, and I think they have guys that understand that role, but I don't know that they have, for lack of a better word, mean guys, right? That aren't afraid to hurt your feelings. And I do think there's something to be said for that.
It's not mean. It's about having uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
It's about putting others first. And going back to Dak's contract, that's a great place to start. be a little selfless, leave something on the table for others, because they have a great nucleus, but they do have to be a little bit more uncomfortable to get to where they want to go.
So you talk about if you're going to leave something on the table here, because if you want to help and bring in some guys here to help you win, should he want out of Dallas, considering he looks at his teammate's brother, his teammate's mama talking about him on Facebook, talking about him.
But it is warranted, though. Like, he's had the opportunity.
No, it's not.
To me, it's warranted. Like, listen, we're judged in this league off wins and losses and how you show up in the big moments. Nobody cares about what you do in the regular season. We say it all the time. You make your name in the regular season, you make your fame in the postseason. And he hasn't been able to live up to expectations. And too often, other people have had their moments at the expense of Dak Prescott. This year, Jordan Love had his moment at the expense of Dak Prescott. When are you going to come up and be the best player out there? And I know it's not all on the quarterback, but the quarterback gets all the praise and all the credit.
So, some of those losses, though, were clock management. This loss to Green Bay was in all three phases. The kicker missed a kick. The defense didn't play well. So
overcome your coaching.
Right, but I'm just saying, Brian, to go back to your question, if I'm Dak Prescott, be careful what you wish for. You're going to leave the Dallas Cowboys. Like, where are you going to go? You want to go to New Orleans? Like, to me, like, finish your career where you started. It's a tremendous platform.
What do you think? Where do you stand on this, Cross?
Yeah, I mean, I think being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is not something people generally want to give up, and I don't think Dak does either. I mean, look, this is a large versus small sample size issue. We can judge everybody on playoff success, but that's not a lot of games. At some point, the Cowboys feel like if they stay the course, it'll work.